press freedom. Well, yes, the president did comment on that bit while he spoke only recently, but we'll bring you his comments there and we'll take it from there.
Journalists across the country gather at the conference room of the Yaradua Center in Abuja for their delegates conference. They are not alone. Even the president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, was with them. He sees the event as a platform to share ideas. He recognizes that without an honest and enterprising pool of journalists, society will decay. Hence, the pledge for continued support under his leadership.
I assure you all here today that under my leadership, journalists in our country will continue to fully enjoy their constitutional rights and freedom of expression without let.
The president came with two requests: that they should cross-check their facts as well as be mindful of those who use the media to promote their selfish interests.
So those who use their platforms to say anything should also be worthy in character.
Insecurity in the land with journalists on the fire line is a source of concern to many of the speakers, an issue they say the government must tackle.
Nigerian journalists did not relent, because if they had acted without courage, perhaps much more damage would have been done by now.
And we should assure Mr. President that the media, as partners in progress, will always identify and support policies and programs that will further enhance the lives of
Others sue for patriotism on the part of journalists. To them, it's all about nation building.
I believe that Mr. President promptly assented to the bill as a practical demonstration of his commitment to media freedom.
We should never take our freedom for granted. This freedom that has come under this leader that believes in the media, that believes in democracy and civility, we must never take it for granted. And I think for us journalists, it is a bigger burden. But I think for this country and for this particular president, who has signed the FOI law for us, we all have been a better challenge to build consensus.
All the speakers seem to acknowledge one fact: that the transformation of the nation cannot be in the hands of politicians alone. Journalists, they seem to say, remain the last hope for both the politician and the common man.
Well, now we're joined by Professor Ralph Akinfeleye, who is the head, Department of Mass Communication, University of Lagos. Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, over 50 years of journalism in Nigeria, because, I mean, if we remember as far back as when they had this Iwe newspaper for the Yorubas and the Gbas at the time, the challenge they faced, how they were shut down, who was still faced it only recently in a democratic dispensation. So, as much as his comment, the president, sounds interesting, we've had people who say it looks as though it's a sad commentary because in a democracy, that thought should even be existent at the time. How would you assess us so far?
Well, the first thing is to congratulate Mr. President for signing the FOI bill to law. You recall that his predecessors did not sign anything, particularly his immediate predecessor held on to the bill until the eve of his departure and did not sign it, and came back to give us what we call ballooning, which was not acceptable. But we want to thank Mr. Goodluck Jonathan, he signed it. But what we are saying is not signing that matters, the implementation of the bill. I listened to his comment at this last Press Freedom Day. It is important for the president to understand that not what he says that matters, but what he does. And not what he does, what his aides, including the ministers, the special advisor, and all of them combined, make him to do. The statement is not belated, I think it's welcome, but it's not what he says that matters, what he does.
It's very important now. Maybe perhaps you can expatiate more on that when you say it goes beyond what his comment on this particular matter is, and his actions count, as well as those of his aides.
Yes. If you are talking about transformation, in my judgment, I believe the transformation agenda should start with the media. Because in my judgment, It appears to me that the media are the oldest of all the estates, as you rightly said. The first newspaper founded in Nigeria, 1859. Nigeria amalgamation, 1914. Nigeria independence, 1960. You can see we are older partner in the system. And we are the fourth estate of the realm. And will never be fourth estate of the wreck. So it is important for them to understand that the press is central to any meaningful democracy. In fact, it's an accelerator to any sustainable democracy. And in fact, it is a propeller that pushes the engine room, it lubricates the engine room of democracy. And democracy, whether it's nascent democracy, or long democracy, or old democracy, or adulterated democracy, is threatened without a free press.
Prof, you spoke about, seeing the transformation from the media. How would you hope to see that transformation in the media? How can we say we've started seeing the transformation in the media? What are the things that we should be looking out for?
Well, it is more than what the president says. It leads to how to protect the interests of the journalists. You understand, recent times, there's some evil forces in the society that attempted to assassinate or kill the messengers with the message. And this is not acceptable in any democracy. In recent times, people have gone to bomb journalists and journalist enterprises and institutions. It is not enough for the president to say, now including freedom of the press, he must be able to protect the interests of the journalists, protect their security, because they are the trustees of the public trust.
Does that
and it's not possible for anybody to padlock the air. So it's a challenge to the journalists to move up, that instead of all these challenges, they should be able to do their work. And doing the work, they must do it with responsibility.
This freedom we talk about, does it also affect the ownership? If you go back and you talk about Iwero way back, and now we're talking about ownership of media organizations today, and how that has affected, the objectivity of some of these media organizations, does that not also affect the kind of freedom that ordinarily they would have gotten from everyone?
Yes, ownership is a factor to be reckoned with. And talking about ownership, let me give you some statistics of what we're talking about. In Nigeria at the moment, this is a research done recently and collaborated with NBC, National Broadcasting Commission. We have over 407 radio television stations in Nigeria, servicing about 160 million people. Out of that 407 stations, for the federal government alone has 116 stations. The states, they have 123 stations. Others, they have 128. And others unclassified, like the radio station, Radio Union Live 103.1, there are about 40 of that. Then if you look at the breakdown, federal government alone, that is federal plus state, that is 116, plus state 128, it gives you a total of 244. And 244 out of 407 is more than 50%. And out of this 50%, we have some that are not functional stations. They give them licenses and they are not operating, political licensing, and people are genuinely interested. So the conclusion here is that in Nigeria at the moment, we have what we call ownership pluralism at the expense of content pluralism. That is not acceptable. That will not help democracy.
How can we help that or solve that?
Revise the trend. Let us have more of what I've called content pluralism.
What content pluralism?
Diversities of what is coming into out of the media. I can predict take 1, take 2, take 3 on NTA network by 9 o'clock, and I'll be 100% right. The first take is the president. Second take is the vice. Third take is the first lady, and that other. And if you go to, it's even worse at the state level. The governor deputy governor, the wife of the governor, all kinds of them. These are people who are just promoting the government. And government is not important as far as we're talking about grassroots development. There are news happening at the state level, and people are emphasizing that as experience of what happens at the state house. That is not acceptable.
Isn't that
in a democracy?
Is that a failure of regulation?
It's not it's both the failure of regulation as well as failure on the part of the journalists themselves, especially those who work with the government on radio, TV, at the federal, at state level. I say it's even worse in the state level. Let me give an example. We did a research some years ago in my department with the postgraduate student. We interviewed 65 media gurus, that is editors and the like. And we are talking about the philosophy of what the station should be and how it should, what is their philosophy. It appears to me many of them don't even understand the philosophy of their station. And let me just have a small recapitulation of what we did. The station, some of them don't even understand their philosophy. Give me a minute, let me read for what you're talking about. The press philosophy, no, we have the 65 stations. Out of these 55 stations, we have average age of these editors about 29 years old. Many of them have university education. Many of them don't have. Many of them have on-the-job training. Part of the findings of this study indicates, and I read just part of it, the philosophy of the media. Let's start with the Voice of Nigeria, for instance. They told us that their basic philosophy, I read, to protect Nigeria and African perspectives by giving a voice to the country and continent at the international level and other discourse, government owned. A privately owned station says to be a viewers and advertisers' first choice. You can see it's not talking about revenue, money. The other one's talking about government. Let me read another station for you. This one says, okay, perhaps you will know what station is this one, or what newspaper is this one. It says to provide detailed reporting of events, unbiased analysis of policies, and upholding the truth, and estimated to make the conscience as a opening, not less than that. That's somebody. Let me read what is important. Another station, I won't mention the station. It says their own objective and philosophy is to report the truth about government activities, and of course to give 65% of their time to government activities and the rest to the people. Just imagine. It's stated in their own philosophy, 65 to government and the rest. What kind of nonsense is that one? So it's a shared responsibility between among the owners, the operators, and the journalists themselves. And this is not to say that some journalists are professionals, but in recent times it appears to me some of us have been invested with viruses.
Yeah, but that last bit,
yes,
does it show that there's a confusion between public television and not even just private or not? Because if it's public, what is public television? Is it government television, or 30% to the people, 70% or 65%?
Yeah, he's saying you must report. That station is a state station. They must report 65% of all activities of the governors and the deputy governor and the wife and so on and so forth. The rest for the others. So diplomatic issues are just secondary. It is only to focus on governor. Right. And that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about developmental journalism, and it should start from us. And the president's transformation agenda, as I said, must start with the media. And they should stop calling us we are partners in progress when they're not giving us the environment to be the partner. Who is the senior partner? And we cannot be serious partner in progress when we are not giving the environment to practice. 2, we are not giving the diversities. I.e., for instance, in Nigeria at the moment, we are the only country in this sub-region without a community radio. And I understand over 2,000 applications are on the table of the regulatory body, National Broadcasting Commission, for approval. Why does it take long for them to approve? Why? The point is, the government, if it's serious about the role the media can play in the democracy, they should be serious altogether.
You know, community radio, no doubt, or community broadcasting is very, very important in our society, in our communities. But again, if you try to marry that with what you just highlighted, looking at that statistics is mind-boggling and very worrisome. If someone or an organization would say 65% goes to the ownership or to the owners of that particular station, before you can now remember the others. Now, what then happens if, for instance, we give 200 the community radio licenses? Don't you think at the end of the day, some of these will not also serve the purpose as being the true watchdog in the area of information dissemination and checking governance?
The community radio concept is built on community of interest. I can have bakers, community of bakers, they can have their own station. I have community of academics, they can have their own station. Community of bankers, they can have community radio station in Victoria Island, maybe 2 or 5, the community of bankers, volunteers, and they do their job. So they are interested is community owned, community run, community provided for, not that they depend on things, they look at it their own. Not that the community of propaganda that people will come, and that is not possible in community.
Like radio doesn't qualify as...
No. We are not a community station. I happen to be the chair of that organization, and also it's also a laboratory for it's one of the what they call the specialized orders. So our one is to project academic content and also do things that are a lot of time different from the other orders.
I know it's not.
And it took us 25 years, for instance, for us to get the license. We will apply and continue to apply under the military regime until one day, in the spirit of togetherness, and we want to thank Mr. Olusegun Obasanjo, he signed the thing, and we have our community, and we have our own radio station in Unilag. 25 years that we struggled to get a license from government. But thank God, since our experiment is the experiment of National Broadcasting Commission, it's their baby really. They experimented with us, and with a success story, they now have over 27 campus radio stations.
You know, you talked about, Prof, allow me come in. Yes. You talked about philosophy of stations. Now,
yes.
For instance, your station, like FM, for instance, can we say it has lost focus of its philosophy?
Never. We are on course. We are on the radar.
So what?
Never move out of the radar.
What makes it different from the other radios?
What makes us different? Number one, we don't carry commercial at all. We don't carry commercial. Two, our programs are geared towards our immediate environment. That's the youth, and we carry inaugural lectures. We carry campus activities. We carry student activities. We also bring, for instance, there's a program called From the Ivory Towers. From the Ivory Tower is a program whereby we invite people who made some breakthrough in their own discipline, from our College of Medicine, from our College of Engineering, and so on and so forth. We have a program on Wednesday, Youth and the Environment. We bring counselors to talk to our students. We have another program on Friday, You and Islam. We bring the chief imam of the university, professor, who will talk exactly with the truth of Muslim. Then on Sunday, we have You and Christianity, and so on and so forth. So our program is unique. It's different. We don't carry commercial as other stations we carry.
When we talk about freedom now, press freedom, how come people at the end of the day get compromised? And now we also have to look at that. If you say we're the older ones in this partnership, and at the end of the day, the younger one has been able to, make you compromise instead of doing what you should be doing, but you're not doing it. For instance, you hear a professor, if tomorrow comes and someone who you have lectured or you have taught the rudiments of true journalism gets into government, and he turns around and, is doing something quite different. Maybe we've seen some journalists or those with that background joining in gagging the press.
See, we give training. And once you leave our campus, the gate, you're on your own. And as I said, journalists are supposed to report as they see the thing. But it appears that some of a few members of the fourth estate of the realm has been compromised, as you rightly said. And that's why I said they have viruses. Until you put antivirus, they cannot stop that one. And somebody will tell me he works with a newspaper and is very prolific. When he becomes the government agent or government special advisor, it's a different ball game. And you can experiment with all our very focal journalists who are now either special assistant, specialists to the government or the government of either at the federal or state level. They are different persons we are seeing. They are different people we are seeing. Because they try not to be anti their ogas. They are supposed to be loyal to the oga rather than be loyal to the profession. So it then boils down that ethical consideration is very important for us as a journalist, and the only test is for any journalist to be able to adhere strictly to the profession. Once you join the government, whether it's special assistant or special that, you have compromised some of your ethical consideration. And you can see my brother now, Ruben. He's not the Ruben we used to know. He's not. Because he has to monitor and also be able to gauge what is journalism and what is government position. And in doing that, it's not easy for him. But since Oman was already here, so he's looking for a job, he got the job. So he must be able to clear himself and be able to maintain his journalistic integrity. And it's very difficult when you work with government. It's different agenda. See, government anywhere, including Nigeria, they try to conceal information. Whereas journalists are supposed to unfold that information. When you are trying to conceal information, you are trying to cover up. I am trying to uncover. We cannot be friends. It's not possible. But we can still be loyal opponents.
Okay, Prof, let's take a look at you also talked about freedom coming with great responsibility for the press. Can we say that so far so good? I mean, with the little freedom that we've had in recent times, can we say that we've used it responsibly?
For the government-owned station, I would say no. Because there are so many protocol journalists in government and enterprises. There are so many yes sir journalists in government enterprises. There are so many gin and lime journalists in the government enterprise. But in the private, they try to balance on a comparative basis, I would say, without any contradiction, that the folks, the journalists who work for private, in my judgment, are more credible in terms of. Look, there was a study we did also in our department. About 90% say they listen to channel. I said, why? Because that's how many of you listen to NTA? About 2% say they listen to NTA. You can see the difference between 90% and 2%. So, but it is not to say that they are 100% correct, but at least when compare government and the private, it is important for us to be able to have more privately owned stations so that people can be talking freely.
The reason why I asked that question is, putting in the light of recent security challenge, the media has been tasked over and over again to be patriotic, to try and report what you see, but do it in a patriotic manner. Okay, do we have a role to play in this new security challenge that we're facing?
You have role to play. In fact, more role to play than the security agencies, because the evil forces in our society, as they operate, there are a couple of things they would like to tell journalists. They see journalists as their friends in the immediate past, which they will not be able to tell a security agent, because the security agent would like to give what they call process information to government. They want to tell government what they want to see. Journalists are likely to tell us they saw it with their own eyes. In doing so, there are contradictions. So the journalist must be seen as somebody who is going to help us untangle the security.
What about heating up the polity? Do journalists help to heat up the policy?
If you hold information, you heat up the policy. If you don't, you heat up the policy. And let me tell you, if you get information, you get a scoop, and you are saying because you want to heat it, you are wasting your time. Because social media will leak it out, and people will understand, and then it will be a disaster to the station. So we have gone. See, it used to be information. From information, it gets to communication. Now we are talking about conversation. So if you get information and you think you want to blow up the police, you are wasting your time. If you don't do, other people will do it. If it has happened a long time ago, when the CBS and Mr. Nixon, they failed to get the report. The man went to Village Voice and it came up. So we be living food paradise, my dear sister. If you think that we want to be patriotic and therefore you see things that will be beneficial to the totality of people, and because some evil forces, very insignificant evil forces in society, you keep it. Other people will expose it and you'll be counterproductive. And it creates a network for rumor. And rumor network moves faster than your own network. And it has no identifiable anchor woman. It has no identifiable station. But it moves so fast than the orthodox network. Faster than CBS or CNN or even Channels television. Network of rumor. So it's for us to prevent rumor network and to put it. See, the whole atmosphere is large enough for all birds to fly without any collision with one another. So also the sea is large enough for fish to swim without collision. It's only the wicked fly we like to entangle the other fish. So therefore, the government agencies should see journalists as trustees of the public, so they see that that your democracy, at the moment what we have in my judgment is not full democracy. It appears to me it's an adulterated democracy. Well, because it does not give us, there's so much power vested at the center and cannot help. Well, and that I understand even that Nigerian president has more power than any president in the world. That cannot. You see, you are talking about security, my dear sister. There's no way Nigerian police will be capable of holding this security because of the training, because of movement, because of diversities, because of illogical inconsistencies. Why can't you allow all the states to have their own police station without prejudice to federal government police? I support those other people have been talking about state police. That's what can help us make sure we stop these security challenges. Right. We bring a policeman to Lagos today. He stays there for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, he's deployed to Sokoto. But what time we'll be able to know? But if he's a local policeman, he knows everybody. He knows everybody in the community. If I'm in my own community, I know everybody. If you are working, I know you go to work. This man is not going to work. I can report. But you are making a monolithic police system in a pluralistic society. It cannot work.
Well, Prof, let's get this back to training for journalists, because that's at the foundation of both success and failure. There's more complaint these days about the kinds of training that journalists get, especially when you see them at their beats or their location. So many seem to be coming through. Is the standards falling, or are we doing enough? Because what people complain about looks to be fundamental. What can be done about that?
Well, I disagree that standard. Which standard? What is standard to start with? For a standard to fall, there must be an established standard. What is the established standard at the moment? Statistically, I don't know. So to say standard is falling, I don't believe. Because there is no set standard. If standard is already said 80%, and you have done the research, it's now 40, then we'll say it's fine. This is guesstimate. What we are talking about is we try to give training to our students. And as you are aware, at the moment, by my last research, we have about 165 journalism and mass communication training institutions in Nigeria operating at the university level, polytechnic level, monotechnic level, and similar institutions. Out of this 165, only 60% have full accreditation. And as we go, I want to thank NUC and MBT for who are the regulatory body in terms of accreditation. When you go, there are some programs. I will not mention a program but very close by. They try to give degree in mass comm. They have no newsroom. They have no newspaper, no studio, no pride laboratory. How can you produce journal? And in the class, they have about 250 students in the basic writing class. Even if you are a genius, you cannot teach successfully in a skill course like news writing, editing, graphics of communication, and so on and so forth. Basic broadcasting techniques and the like, the station management and operations. You can't do that. But because as soon as they try to establish a university or a polytechnic, After engineering is law, mass comm. We have to stop this proliferation. It's affecting standard. That's what I'm talking. Standard is not that it's falling. Is the trainers are trying, but they are setting up mass comm institutions as if they set up petrol stations. That is, you can't set it like this by getting a gas station. It is not student and desk. It goes beyond capital intensive, and your camera today may be working tomorrow, installed, and you know how much it will cost you. But people just go there, and some of parents are misinformed. They go to schools, and when they come to a good school, they don't be able to cope. In fact, we have stopped admitting some of them from this, I call them Yanapaja University, or Roadside University, or Roadside Polytechnic, because they cannot cope with a student. I mean, you cannot operate without the basic standard. And journalism training is not just you, desk, and board. I went for accreditation in the school recently, somewhere, I won't mention the place, but somewhere, even in the southeast, I'm sorry to say, because I'm surprised. When I got there, you know, in their newsroom, they're still using typewriter. Yes, typewriter. And I was amazed. Of course, they didn't pass anyway. It's not possible. So it is very important for us to invest on human development, and then to warn those people giving the approval for setting up universities that mass comm should be a standard whereby if you are not ready to sponsor and to spend money on it, don't establish it. That is very important, and that is what is affecting the performance, not the standard. The performance of students, okay. And some of them also, when they leave the university, they go out and work in other places other than where they are trained for. And when they come in, the employers, in some cases, they are not looking for standard. They are looking for cheap labor. They have a product that is from a good university and is asking for 50,000. They would prefer to get somebody who graduated from a roadside university or Polytechnic, who will get 20,000. And because that is a journalist, and you're going to be in the same market with you. But by their food, which I know them. By their food, which I know them. So
how are you integrating social media? Because traditional media and social media, because, I mean, we see it on a regular basis, because since the regulation is not as it is with social media and the traditional media, are you integrating it well in terms of, guys, yes, you can use this medium, but you have to be a lot more responsible, because with your responsibility comes that much weight on your shoulders?
Yes, we are integrating it. In fact, we review our curriculum almost every 2 years. Some universities don't. We have integrated social. As I'm talking, I have 2 of our lecturers attending social media IT training in Kenya, and 1 in Nairobi doing everything. So when they come back, they have to replicate what we are trying to do. But in some schools, we don't see anybody talking about it. And anybody with a computer, with a laptop, is a journalist. He's not a journalist because of credibility and because of the integrity, because of the code of conduct and the training. So all this citizen journalism, yes, it is there because there's freedom, but not to say that they are doing the right thing. And nobody will accept the citizen journal. And there's a lot of misuse in the social media, especially in Nigeria at the moment. The founders of all this social media were supposed to use it to develop intellectual horizon of people, but now people are using for so many other evil things, such as Yahoo and all kinds of things.
I was actually coming there because now we are out of time. Since it has moved from information to communication and now conversation because of the social media,
Yeah.
How can we sieve and get the meat out of every conversation we get to see in the social media to say, oh, this is the news?
Quality control mechanism, yes, by applying standard and ethics of the profession. That, to my mind, is the answer. We cannot allow them, we cannot say they cannot operate, but we should be able to do some internal control mechanism to make sure that our stories are credible, to make sure we do the right. The president was saying that he has asked for 2 things from the journalists, that they should check their stories to make sure it's factual before they do. Yes, that's one of the principles we teach in Mass 101. He has asked them also that the security, but what I wanted him to do is that not that he will allow them to move, but to protect the journalists. That one is very central. I must protect the journalists and see them as working I'm working as even the chief of staff is working to make sure they protect us, because without the journalists, as I said, democracy is threatened. Whether it's the nascent democracy as we're talking about.
On a different matter, sorry, tell us about this, since you review your curriculum on a regular basis, the school now. There's this course you talk about, terrorism studies in University of Lagos. What is that about?
That is one of the challenges that all these insecurity occurrences is giving to Nigeria. I think that one is going to be, not in our department, I think it's the sociology or faculty of law. Before the demise of the VC, it was very serious about it, and I think they are going to work on it, because the university is there to provide solution to challenges within society. They are not supposed to be there as ivory. It's not, in fact, the university is not ivory anymore. It's a turning tower. It's not an ivory tower anymore. So we have to link town with gown. That's why in that department we try to bring people from the industry to come and teach our students. Like your guy here, he comes here to give lecture, and when he comes to the class, my students are so happy with him, because there are a couple of things that he has here that we cannot get in. No textbook, no author for that subject matter at the moment. Then we bring people from the industry to be able to bring the gap between town and gown. And other universities, other programs will emulate that one. Because there's no way we will train our students if we don't know what you want in the industry. And it's an insult for me to train my students and come here and to retain them. So you will understand that in the immediate past, the classrooms were way ahead of the newsrooms. But in recent times, they have changed to the point that the newsrooms are far ahead of the classroom. And this is unacceptable to us as trainers. And that's why we try to bring people from the industry to come and help talk to our students, give lectures, and we're inviting people to come and help our people, our students, so that they're able to understand the nuts and the bolts of the profession. So when they come and for interview, you know that you don't need to actually spend another money returning them. You stay with us for 4 years, bachelor's degree, BSc Honors in Mass Comm, and coming to you are returning him. It's an insult to us. So we're trying to do a program in such a way that it answers what you are demanding. And that's why we wrote a proposal to the World Bank. I wrote that proposal to set up a center of excellence in multimedia and cinematography. And through the grace of God, we competed with about 15 universities and polytechnics. We got it in, I think, about 5 million USD in terms of equipment. Our studio, our laboratories, our newsroom, our laboratory will be equipped by the World Bank. And we're working towards it. We're in the second stage. We're doing research also on this other thing. There is a research component of it. And there is also innovation with the industry. We meet with you, meet with Nollywood people and all that. So that at the end of the day, our student will be more marketable. It is as a moment.
All right, sounds interesting, but we'd like to thank you for coming up. But just before you go, Prof, on behalf of the entire team of Sunrise AD, we'd like to commiserate with yourself and the school for the loss of the Vice Chancellor. So accept our condolences.
Thank you very much. I think the burial arrangement is on, and they were buried on Thursday this week, and we are very sad. He was a very nice person. It's a big calamity on the part of the university, and we are ceremony. We hope we don't. It's the first of its time that we have that kind of Vice Chancellor dying while in service or while during his tenure. He was a very kind person, very pleasant, peace-loving, easygoing, and respectful and humble. To the fourth way, we hope. We pray that his soul may continue to rest in perfect peace. Thank you very much for your concern.